Hey, what's up, fit friends? Lee Swigum here. Little Thursday thoughts of sorts or whatever. Tuesday, Trainer Talk Tuesday on Thursday, whatever you want to make it. Wednesday wisdom. Anyway, just gonna talk to you a little bit today about the 5 characteristics or 5 attributes of total fitness. All right, some of these, probably 3 of them we're all very familiar with. 2 of them might slip our mind a little bit or not really be at the top of the list when we think of, do we want to be totally fit? All right, so here are the 5 attributes or characteristics that make up total fitness. All right, 1, muscular strength. All right, not necessarily for how long or duration lifting, but how much weight are you able to do once or twice. Okay, strength. Then we're going to go muscular endurance, number 2. That would kind of be the opposite. Not so concerned with how heavy the weight is, but for how long, how many reps, for how long time-wise I can do it. So endurance. Muscular strength, 1. Muscular endurance, 2. Number 3, cardiovascular endurance, meaning lung and heart health. All right, so your respiratory health, your cardiovascular health, but are you able to go for the long haul? What we would typically think of as cardio is number 3. Number 4 is our range of motion or flexibility. And I think this is one that really gets put on the back burner. Most of us don't think of this. But again, flexibility or range of motion. How flexible are we? How mobile are our joints? That all ties into, again, mobility, balance, full range of motion. So whether that means, that does mean stretching, that means dynamic movements. It's part of lengthening the muscles along with just, not just strengthening them, but making them longer as well. All right, so that's number 4. And number 5 is body composition. Does make up total fitness. Your lean muscle mass versus your fat content or your body fat percentage. So lean muscle mass up, body fat down. So it's not necessarily about the scale when we talk about that. We're talking about body composition. Reducing body fat, basically, is that one. Okay? So let's just quickly talk about those 5 again. 1, muscular strength. All right? Again, kind of your 1 rep max type muscular strength. How much weight can I do once, twice, 3 times? Usually pure strength is like a 6 rep or less, okay? How much weight can I do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times approximately? So that, again, that's pretty common. We understand that. I think most of us lift weights for that purpose. Again, maybe less reps, but heavier weight. So that's one facet of it. Number 2, we also want to lift weights for endurance. We want to have muscular endurance. So I get the question a lot, should I lift low reps and high weight, or should I lift low weight and high reps? The answer is typically yes. Okay, both. Get a good balance of it, change it up, whether it's week to week, month to month, every couple of weeks. Maybe you do 1 heavy day a week, and then you do 1 endurance day a week. Kind of play around with that, but to be overall fit, you want to have both muscular strength and muscular endurance. So we want to train for both of those, okay? So let's start those first 2. Third one, again, is our cardio, or how long can our lungs and our heart keep up with our workout. I still firmly believe that the best route for cardio is interval training, all right? So that's like a 20 to 40 second burst of energy, and then a 20, 30 second, I'll say 10 to 30 second rest, and then you go hard again. I'm a real big fan of the intervals for training. Get that heart rate up, let it come down a little bit. Get that heart rate back up, let it come down a little bit. That does have really good cardiovascular benefits. That's probably, again, my favorite, the one that I would recommend the most. There are other forms of cardio where you run for miles, half marathon, a marathon style. That is cardiovascular training. I don't think that's the end-all, be-all, or the only way to train for cardio. In fact, again, I suggest or I recommend HIIT over the long duration, but you can do some long duration cardiovascular training from time to time, especially if it's prepping for an activity. Again, you're running a half marathon, something like that. Yes, you have to practice for that and work your way up to that. and do that half marathon, but you can get gains towards that by doing your interval training as well. So that's your cardio. All right, number 4, the flexibility or range of motion. In my training, we do focus a lot on a good dynamic warm-up to not only stretch the muscles, loosen up the joints, but establish or reestablish that full range of motion for good joint health and muscular health. But the other reason we want to really maintain that flexibility, again, is not only for our mobility, but as I mentioned before, our joint and muscular health. All right, as we do resistance training, if we are not also concentrating on maintaining or gaining range of motion and flexibility, we're actually going to naturally lose it, okay? When I lift weights, or when most people lift weights, they are gradually actually shortening that muscle over time. So that's where we get to the point where we see maybe bodybuilders who can't straighten their arms. They walk like this, or and there's lots of jokes that go along with that. I won't mention them, but where you're not able to fully straighten a joint because one muscle is just overly tight. It's too big and too tight, so I lose range of motion that way. Negatives to that, aside from the obvious of not having full range of motion, is increase in muscle strains by doing something that forces the joint to go beyond what you're used to. Muscle strain can occur, or we overstretch a muscle where it's not used to it, then put tension on it. Again, that's a good thing to do a little, where you come up with a muscle tear, muscle pull, a little muscle strain, things like that. Also, when muscles become overly tight, they are actually pulling on 2 different joints, all right? Pretty much all your muscles overlap 2 joints, one on each side. So let's talk about the bicep, just because it's easy to show. Bicep's going to attach to the forearm below the elbow. It's also going to attach up above the shoulder. So it does go through past the shoulder and past the elbow. So for example, with that one, if I don't have full range of motion with my bicep, it limits shoulder movement and elbow movement. Again, can lead to injuries over time if I'm doing stuff hard or fast and I extend further than I'm used to. Where this really becomes an issue is typically in the hips and the butt, low back, that area. When you have your hamstring muscles, your glute muscles that cross over above your back, you have multiple joints obviously in your spine. Well, when tight muscles, tendons pull on that low hip area, on your pelvis area, you're pulling on that low back and your low spine. That's a lot of times why we feel tightness, pain, discomfort in our low back. A lot of times it is because of tight hamstrings, tight glutes, and a lot of times weak hamstrings and weak glutes, okay? This one we're talking a little bit more about the tightness. So by just stretching out and gaining mobility in those hips via the hamstrings and glutes, we can reduce that tightness and pain in the low back. So again, when muscles become too tight, they pull on joints and pull that joint perhaps a little bit out of alignment, causing discomfort, pain, that sort of thing. So that's one big reason we want to maintain that flexibility and range of motion, okay? Last one, again, talking about body composition. Body fat down, lean muscle up, all right? Why? Well, body fat is obviously added weight, not in a non-healthy manner. If it's too much, where we get to the obesity, puts strain on the heart, strain on, pumping the blood through your body, strain on your lungs, strain on your organs, just because there is that visceral fat inside around those organs. So there's 2 types of fat I get into now. Visceral fat, that is your internal fat that basically kind of lines your organs and is on the inside. And then we have our subcutaneous fat, which is what you feel or see underneath your skin. When you pinch around your waist or your stomach, you feel that surface fat. That's your subcutaneous. So typically when we lose weight, the body loses weight 1 to 1. For every 1 unit it loses in subcutaneous, it also loses in visceral fat. So it's hard, you really can't spot pick when it comes to fat loss. I can't say I'm just going to lose fat right here, so I'm just going to train that area. Fortunately, it doesn't work that way, and it doesn't only burn subcutaneous fat. You are losing subcutaneous and visceral fat about 1 to 1. So internal fat and surface fat, you're going to lose equally typically. And the surface fat is what we see and what covers our muscle. So when we want to see muscle definition, there's two ways to do it. We add lean muscle mass, because you've got to have that sort of shape, and then we burn fat to show those muscles. All right, so that's kind of the idea behind body composition, is losing fat, gaining lean muscle. Again, depending on what our goals are, our ages, I hear all the time, oh, I'm not trying to get really big and muscular, so I don't want to lift weights. That's a myth, not going to happen. You have to specifically train to get big and bulky, and then typically, depending on your age, females especially, that's just not genetically, that's what I'm looking for. That's really just not genetically possible. It's not common for women to gain bulk really easily, okay? Yes, there are a few of you that do gain bulk rather easily. If I was that, I would embrace it and run with it. But gaining strength isn't going to make you big and muscular, all right? It's going to shape you, all right? It's going to shape your legs, your shoulders, your arms, all right? And then by burning fat, especially your subcutaneous, is going to reveal that nice, slender, long shape. Little bit of curves with the muscles, whether it's in the arms. You want to see definition in the tricep, the bicep, in the shoulder, in the hips, the thighs, the calves. So that is how we get that tight and toned look, is by burning fat, adding some lean muscle mass. Okay, so they all tie together ultimately, but those are the 5 aspects or characteristics of total fitness. Typically, we are really good at 1, 2, or 3 of them. We aren't always the best at 4 and 5. So I would just challenge you to focus on all 5 of those. Get stronger, get better with muscular endurance, improve your cardiovascular health, maintain your flexibility or increase your range of motion, and 5, burn fat, gain muscle. So if you have questions, feel free to message me, comment below. Otherwise, let's get together, let's go through some sample workouts, do a little evaluation on your back, hips, and joints. Make sure your hips and body is in optimal form and optimal function for proper movement. All right, so message me, let's get together. Have a wonderful day. Talk to you soon. Peace.